15 years ago I started cooking as a chef up in a small town near Coffs Harbour called Urunga. I've been lucky enough to travel to many areas of the globe. And now back in Sydney, running the Sydney venture, which has been here now for almost 7 years. A restaurant that we're very happy with. It's been very successful and continues to grow. We've been hatted by the Sydney Morning Herald every single year since opening. When Flying Fish opened, Pyrmont was an area which wasn't really developed. I know when the owner Con took the lease in this building, it was quite a big thing because there wasn't much around here. It's a business sort of lunch crowd. And then of a night time it changes to a crowd that is quite diverse. It's not just a city crowd, which being out of the way, we're still lucky they still actually make the time to come around to Jones Bay Wharf. We're close to the fish market in Pyrmont, and having a fish market a minute away, the fish is always completely fresh. All the seafood that comes through the door, whatever we need, our fishmongers will work very hard to source for us. You know, I think it's all about the quality of the fish. You know, you can tell good fish from bad fish simply by its appearance, by its smell, you know, the way it's been treated. Unfortunately, the price point is also a good way to tell of a good seafood restaurant, because these days good seafood's not cheap. But I think it has to be that way to ensure that there's a good sustainable chain of seafood restaurants continue in Sydney. This year we opened Flying Fish and Chips in the Star, which we're very happy with. Just a casual sort of takeaway fish and chip shop, but using high quality produce. I think the fish and chip shop takes the guesswork and the hard work out of trying to find some good fish and chips around the area. So one of our signature dishes here at Flying Fish is one of our side dishes actually, twice cooked hand cut chips, which we serve with a chili salt. They're almost a downfall because sometimes they take away from the actual main course. Twice fried chips is basically finding a good potato and cooking it twice, a blanching process to soften the chip but not colour it, on the second process of cooking at a higher temperature to give it its colour and crispiness and crunch. The most important part of a good hand-cut chip is making sure you choose the right potato, and that sort of depends on what time of the year that you are cooking your potatoes. So you try and pick a potato that doesn't have a high sugar content. 3/4 of the year at Flying Fish we use a Desiree potato, which is the pink potato which you'll commonly see in your supermarkets that is mostly always washed. When that sugar content rises in the Desiree, we sometimes turn to either a Nicola potato or a Sebago. At the moment we're using a large potato which is also common, is called a Colaban, because the sugar content is quite low, so they don't sort of over brown too quickly. Another good tip with a hand-cut chip is going for large size, so we don't lose too much of the potato when we're cutting them into a chip. Just washing most of the dirt off, but you don't have to try and get it all off because the peeler will do the rest of the job. So the easiest tip with peeling is just to do it over a bowl of water. We'll just square off the chips, trying to lose as little of the potato as possible. And trying to make sure they're even too. What I do is I square the top of the potato up with the top of the chopping board and just bring that down. And a sharp knife is also very important. So the domestic deep fryer we're going to use today is the first deep fryer that is designed to do twice cooked chips, which scares me because it's going to put me out of a job. For the size of these collar bands, I'd say about 3 or 4 large collar bands to make a kilo. So once our potatoes have had a nice soak in water to release some of that starch, we'll now drain them on some absorbent towel just to get as much water off as possible so we don't damage that oil in that deep fryer. When those potatoes are nice and dry, we'll then transfer them to the deep fryer. So now we're ready to cook the chips. So for the first step we're blanching. This machine's already done the hard work for me and has a setting which is going to be 130 degrees for 8 minutes. So while the chips are cooking for their first 8 minutes, we'll quickly knock up the signature salt we use here at Flying Fish on our twice cooked chips. Okay, so we'll start by putting in some dried red chilies. To be able to grind the chilies down you need something that's abrasive, so we're going to be using some sea salt and some crispy Bombay onions or dried shallots as they are also called. And then we'll start grinding. The main objective is to make sure the chili is broken down as fine as possible. We also add some dried garlic chips, and then to balance it out we'll use some sugar. So the sugar counteracts the sea salt, the spiciness of the chili, and the heat of the garlic. So at 130 degrees the chip will cook more evenly, the chip won't colour. Okay, so the 8 minutes is just about to finish. We'll pull the basket up, we'll give them a few minutes to drain, and we'll move on to the second process. We want twice fried chips, second fry. We'll just press start and wait for the oil to come up to 180 degrees. So now we're ready to finish cooking them. We'll pop them down and then we're just going to be looking for a nice golden colour. So just a few minutes of draining and then straight in the bowl and straight with the salt, which will allow the salt to stick to the chips. You know, it doesn't really matter how much you put in there because the chips will only take as much salt as they want on them, and the rest will stay in the bowl once we give it a shake. So we'll just toss the chips so the salt sticks. and then we'll stir them in the bowl. And then just finish with a little bit more salt on top. You never have too much seasoning on chips. And there we have our twice fried flying fish chips with chili salt.